Life's too short, I'm on the run, but to my eyes you are the sunshine, sunshine, sunshine.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Tim Gray Talk Show. Hope your 22 is going well. Hope the first month is treating you good. Listen, we got a lot to get into this episode. Before we start, before I introduce this guest, one of my favorite saying is it's not about what you know, but who you know. This next guest is really big on creating networking relationships, networking hubs. This guy has hosted so many events in this city. We talking about Wonderland. We talking about Cultivate GR, bringing that hub of networking together. He's an entrepreneur. We're going to get into this in just a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Ezekiel Fowle to the set. Glad to have you, brother.
Appreciate you.
How's it going, man? How's 2022 treating you?
It's good. I mean, we're, 6-7 days in? So far, no complaints.
Yes, sir.
8 days in.
Yes, sir.
But no, it's good. I'm excited. I'm motivated, and just look forward to see what this year brings. And I'm happy to be here. I love to see where you've come, man. So I appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate you being on the show, like I said. I want to dig into some things here. We're going to backtrack a little bit. Now, for those of you who don't know, Ezekiel was born in Grand Rapids, but he has kind of a lengthy history of traveling outside of the city and outside of the state. So a lot of our viewers have these ideas where they think if I can go to Los Angeles, if I can go to California, if I can go to New York, all these different networking hubs, then I can make it. You've actually went to Los Angeles and stayed there. Can you kind of allude to what you're trying to do in GR as opposed to what the impact was when you went to Los Angeles?
Yeah. So for a little context, I moved to Los Angeles. So I work for Honeywell, which is a Fortune 100 company. I never heard of it before I started working there. But basically, it's a $42 billion company that's got a lot of different segments. My segment in specific is called automation and data capture. So basically, the easiest way to explain it is if you order something off Amazon, you know how when you check and you can see where it's at throughout the process? That's my world. So anything in this world that gets made and manufactured, your shoes, your shirt, it's got a barcode on it.
Right.
And from the moment it gets made when it gets to a retail store to get to your house, it's tracked. So that's my world. So I was working for Honeywell in my first outside sales job. I was in Charlotte at corporate. I moved to LA. I always wanted to get out there, but my push to get to LA was I had a bunch of friends, and one of my best friends was a cinematographer out there. And so I've always been in the creative space, and he kind of convinced me to come out there. We start shooting YouTube videos or whatever it was and just see what we could create.
Sure.
So being out in LA for just under 3 years, it was dope. I loved it. And what I learned out there is, in big cities where you have millions of people, especially LA, you have so much talent in one spot where they kind of understand the concept better than these smaller cities on networking and collaborating. Almost so much where it's, superficial sometimes. You see the picture, at highlight room with the famous person or whatever. But what they get is that there's a lot of talented people.
Definitely.
They're all trying to make it. So they have to collab, they have to network, but they don't really call it that. That's just what they do.
Right, it's a way of life.
Yeah, it's just
right.
what you're constantly trying to meet the next person.
Right.
And if you don't do that, you're never going to get ahead in LA. And so I would be at these studios and I'd be at these events, and it would be open bars and everyone looked nice and everyone's chopping it up, and it was just a cool vibe. And so also working for Honeywell in the corporate world, we do a lot of big expos and
Sure.
these events, but it's a very dulled down version of what I was just talking about. It's
Right.
very organized, and it's it's the name tags, it's the panel speakers, and it's very corporate, and there's not really a vibe to it. So working for Honeywell, doing those things, and then being in LA, I had an opportunity to move back here with Honeywell, just a different position as a channel manager, which I'm in now. And when I came back here, when I was trying to integrate myself back into just the scene and the creative world, one thing I've noticed is what happens in these smaller cities is you have all these creative places. You have Carbon and you have Gorilla and you have these studios and these artists, but it's more gaps.
Sure.
It's more segmented, and there's a different mindset where, if one person's getting all the big jobs, let's say for production, they kind of see it as more competition. They want to stay
Sure.
away. Where in LA, it's more like, hey, how do I get to where these people are? How do I link with these people? How do I learn from these people? So there's a lot of creativity, but there's more gaps. So when I moved back, I was thinking about how do I bring what I've seen in the corporate world with networking and these conferences and expos, but also what I've seen in Hollywood with like these dope events and vibes and try to mix them together. And so that's where the idea for Cultivate happened. Was let me throw an event where we have dancers and we have artists and it's an open bar and everyone looks good, but there's also panel speakers and there's people in the city who are doing it who can give back, and like let me focus. That's why Cultivate is networking for creatives, young professionals, entrepreneurs last, because I want the people who are trying to get there at least one time a year. Let's get a couple hundred people in a room who can chop it with each other. And like I don't know who told me this word, but it was, you know, cooperation. Like I'd rather cooperate with my competition than just see you as competition and try to stay away from that lane. I'd rather try to learn from them. So that's kind of where the concept for Cultivate came. And then I didn't want it to just be like a boring, you know, corporate, nobody talks to each other. And so that's why I'm on the mic and I'm trying to tell people, like, have conversation, you know, follow up with these people you meet. You know, I don't know if this is true, but I saw it on YouTube one time and it was like 80% of people who go to networking events, they never follow up with the person. And so my whole thing is just trying to have intent, you know. So when we talk about Cultivate, don't just come, but like really have intent, you know, and try to meet people, connect with them, follow up with these people, because you know you're one person away from meeting someone who can really help you or who you can really help.
And I can allude to what you just said. I've been to many of your events, and I've met a lot of people and made a lot of lasting relationships that have propelled my personal journey. Now, what do you say to our viewers who have this idea, they have these concepts, they're trying to launch, but they're doing it by themselves? Why is building these relationships and networking and meeting all these other people so important to your personal gain that you're trying to do?
Right. I mean, it just depends on what you're trying to create, but the easiest way to say that is anybody who's successful didn't do it by themselves. You know, you can...
LeBron James.
It's possible. Don't get me wrong. Like it starts with you first, right? It starts with your mindset, and it starts with your discipline. Right. But ultimately, anyone who's built up anything or any type of empire or company, they didn't do it by themselves.
Definitely.
You know, every once in a while. So let's talk about music. Every once in a while, you'll have the Justin Biebers, and it's actually a little bit more common now with TikTok, and like a song blows up. Right. But the people who last and make it past that song that blew up, they had people around them. Justin Bieber had a video that popped. He had Usher, who had a team, who had people. And it's about having people that believe in your idea, but also empowering them as well. So not just all about you. You want to make this show, you got to get everyone else involved. Right. And you got to have them find a place in what you're trying to do and feel comfortable. Because, again, you look at a rapper, they have someone who's doing their videos, they have someone that's doing their beats, but these people all believe in their vision. Right. So it's just important to have a team around you.
And you mentioned rappers, so a lot of people don't know that you at one point were in the music industry. Yeah. Can you kind of expound a little bit on your time in the music industry? What was that about?
Yeah. So it's wild to think about now, and a lot of people, you know, kind of see me as corporate, but I kind of live both worlds. You know, I have my corporate world and I have my, you know, turn up like life, and so that's my whole thing is balance, right? And moderation. But no, in college, I was playing football, and I always did music, even in high school. Like I was making videos, and like, you know, I'm 33. Right. This was 2006, you know, 2005. I was making videos or songs in my mom's basement, and I gave up on it. And then I got to college, and I happened to meet this guy in a class, and he had a studio in Midland, and I tore my ACL, so I stopped playing football. But I was still at college, and we were like, you know, let's record. You know, didn't own any of this stuff. Recorded it. Went to Northwood, which, you know, there's only 2,000 kids there, so I was actually decent. Like I had decent production, so it sounded good. So at least, you know, I had that. And when you're at a school, no one else is doing it. You kind of get a decent following. So we were actually able to kind of, you know, for a few years make a little run. And this is before, you know, Snapchat and Instagram. So this was before all
the platforms.
This is when I was in college. I didn't care, so we were doing, you know, we were doing wild stuff, but no one ever really could see it or like. Now that's the whole point. You want to know who these artists are. Like the artists that have the best personalities, they typically make it the furthest. But anyway, so we did shows. I used to open up for people all the time. I did a show at the Intersection, and that was kind of innovative. We did a show at the Intersection, and we actually paid for it and brought Juicy J right when Bands and Maker Dance was popping. And so it was our concert, but it just so happened it was in January. We had a snowstorm. We didn't know anything about what we were doing. We got finessed on all fronts on pricing. Lost a bunch of money. And that was kind of the end of the
Did y'all at least have a good show?
Had a great time. Yeah, had a great time. I mean, Juicy was there, but it just was, you know, we were going in the moment, and I had people around me, and I had a team, but the problem was none of us really knew what we were doing.
Right.
We were just kind of riding the wave, you know, but yeah, so that was it.
So let me make this imagery for our viewers. You're in the car by yourself, in the shower by yourself, alone. What is that song that nobody would expect that you're jamming in the car, in the shower, that you're singing? Nobody would probably expect Ezekiel Fowle.
I think you might expect it, but my favorite song, hands down of all time, is "Let Me Love You" by Mario.
Really?
But hands down, all time.
Really? "Let Me Love You" by okay.
Forever.
Throwback. Okay.
Something about that video, something about that time in my life. You know, I think that was just kind of like, that was the first time I was, you know, really like getting in relationships. And just like the visuals, and like I always wanted that condo.
Yeah.
You know, painting on the walls and stuff. So that's hands down my favorite song. So I don't know if it's expected or not, but.
Okay. Piggybacking off that, give me your top 5 artists, starting from 5 to number 1 of all time. Any genre, any music group, anything.
Yeah. Starting from 5 is tough. I can start from 1.
Yeah, okay, let's start from 1.
Okay, so Drake.
Okay. That's interesting because you kind of grew up in the 90s, right?
I didn't even like Drake at first.
Interesting.
Yeah, well, okay. I mean, I got to high school in 2003.
Okay, gotcha,
right?
Yep.
So that's when I was really like listening to music.
Yep.
But, I don't know, I didn't like Drake at first. But he just grew on me, and then I started as I got older, I started understanding what he was actually talking about.
Right.
And I just could relate to it.
Okay.
Know? And I've always kind of been all over the place and moving around, so I'm you know, and just the relationship whole thing, it just hit me.
Right.
I would say 2 of all time, I probably have to put Wayne in there.
Okay.
Again, that's, you know,
right,
our era. I probably have to put 50 Cent in there.
Okay, yeah, that's
because that was a big impact at the time.
Yep.
Which sounds crazy.
Yep.
Who else would I put in there? I guess I'm just more a vibe. So like, I gotta put Future in there.
Okay. Yep.
You know, and then I probably would put, as far as like somebody older who I really listen to, not so much anymore, but I feel like I gotta put Jay in there too.
Okay. Well, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
Drop a bar for us. If you can't, it's true.
Drop a bar for me. Well, I just put a song out, and it's called Love. I put it on this, so I hadn't done music in a very long time. Actually, this is a wild question from you, actually. But I put a song out, and it's called Love, and the whole concept behind it is just like, you know, where we're at. And so there's one line that I put that kind of stuck with me, and it's, you know, it's not what it seems. It's not what you see on the screens. So like the whole concept of just social media, right? Mm-hmm. And like the work that's being put behind it, right? So you just see the outcome.
Right.
But how many people are really putting their everyday lives on, you know?
Right. We just see the glory days.
Yeah, so super simple. Like it ain't what it seems. It's not what you see on the screens. Shit is extreme. You know, putting in work from the first to the first. Ain't nothing worse than being alone, checking your phone, like what's going on? Like what did I miss? You didn't miss shit. You know?
Right. Okay. Yep. Yeah. And I like that. I like how you alluded to, you know, we just put the glory days, the good times on social media, right? Because that's the generation that I live in, where everybody puts the good things, all the great things. But can you allude to the struggle of when you're trying to make it? You got all these events, you know, Cultivate GR, Wonderland. Can you allude to the struggle that you go through when you're trying to put these different events on for the city, cultivate a city like Grand Rapids? What are the struggles that comes with that?
I would say it's interesting, the word struggle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, it's not a struggle. It's just the work, right? And
I like
so
that thought.
it's enjoying the struggle, right? And you're always gonna have things that you don't know,
right?
You don't know what you don't know, so it's more about just moving forward in the right direction, and it'll figure itself out. So, you know, there's a lot of like struggles. I don't know. It's interesting,
or obstacles.
Yeah, there's
even
right, and so there's always a way around it.
Right.
Right. And so again, that comes back to you.
Yep.
That comes back to your mindset. If there's something in the way here, you can get around it. And this is what we were talking about the other day. Is like you have a decision. You know, you either solve it or you accept it for what it is.
Right.
So I think with doing events, it's a lot of reaching out to people. You know, I'll give you an actual example. When I first moved back, you know, I got really lucky. I have my buddy, Anthony Lazaro. He's out in LA now, and he gave me a list of 30 people. And I told him I was trying to do an event, right? And so one was like, I had this idea for this networking thing, but also selfishly, how do I integrate myself into the community? You know, because I haven't been back here. A lot of my friends, you know, at this point, you know, have kids and wives, and like, they're really not like into the city like that.
Right.
So I got lucky having him giving me this list, and I just started hitting people up one at a time, you know, and asking to set up meetings and running my idea past them. And, you know, ultimately, you know, I'm a salesperson, so kind of convincing them on what it was. But there's a lot of people I hit up a lot of times and didn't hear back. And then I'd see them, you know, at a coffee shop or whatnot, and I'd be like, yo, like, I reached out to you. And there's a thing, like, I don't have any hard feelings. If I reach out to somebody and they don't reach back out to me, I don't feel any type of way about it. People are busy. You don't know who I am. And if I see you, I'm not going to come at you with a negative energy and be like, hey, like, you're not hitting me up. You don't know who I am. I'm just going to tell you, hey, I've been trying to hit you up. Here's what it is. Would love to connect to you, you know. So it's about, like, the energy that you put out there.
Definitely.
But also just being, you know, persistent. And there's a difference from, like, persistence to annoyance. You know, acting like, I think the annoyance part is where you have an expectation from somebody. So if I hit somebody up because I want something and I have this expectation that they need to hit me up because I got the best idea, like, it doesn't work that way.
Definitely.
Like, so you got to be persistent though.
Definitely.
And eventually, if your idea is good and you come at them with the right energy and it's about how you talk to people, they'll get behind what it is.
Okay, and I want to allude kind of to Anthony Lazaro and he giving that list of 30 people, because that goes back to the whole networking, which is what you do in the city. Can you explain to us in your own words, what is Cultivate? What does Cultivate mean?
I think it's bringing together creatives and young professionals and entrepreneurs to all help each other, right? So the younger generation learning from the older generation giving back to the younger. But the thing is so in the creative world, a lot of creatives, whether you're an artist, a musician, whatever it is, you're that way and you're good at what you do because you have tunnel vision on that one thing, right? I do music, I do art, I make clothes, whatever it is. But that doesn't mean you know anything about marketing,
right?
Or finance,
right?
Or just, you know, economics in general,
right?
Or networking, right? So my whole goal is like, there's all these creative people, but the people who know about that's the corporate people.
Definitely.
You know, or that's the people who have businesses who have went through that and figured it out. So there's a lot to offer. So it's really trying to get these two people to help each other. And that's my whole thing, is mixing a lot of what I know is from the corporate world and what I've learned through Honeywell and going through sales training programs and being in sales my whole life. So taking what I've learned and seen from the corporate world and applying that to help the creatives who haven't been, you know, I went to a business school.
Definitely.
The first job I ever had was at Foot Locker. All through college, I was working at Journeys in the mall selling shoes. And my whole life has been, I sold cars after college. Then I've been with Honeywell. So everything I've done has been in that kind of sales mindset. And so it's really just having all these people, you know, share information.
Definitely.
And then also, I mean, as the older generation, you know, like I posted the other day, like, it's important to stay connected with the youth because the youth is next up. You know, the youth thinks differently. They know what's in. They know what's popping. So don't look at it as like, you only can get from me. Like, I can get a lot from you. And that's actually how I stay plugged in. You know,
I like that too, you know, not having that too big of a head where you know it all, but pulling and getting information and getting all these different ideas and putting everybody in one place for that hub. Now, I want to stay on Cultivate. What can people expect when they go to Cultivate? Because I've been to Cultivate a couple times, and I'm assuming you're going to have one this year in 2022.
Yep.
So for all of our viewers who are creatives, who've never been to Cultivate, what can they expect when they go to Cultivate?
They can expect a vibe, first of all. You know, that's a big thing for me is when you talk about networking events, sometimes people are like, it's a networking event, but like it really is a vibe.
Definitely.
You know, if you've been there. So like that's what, you know, we have good DJs, you know, we have food, we have an open bar. And so, you know, think about when you go to the bar, when it's loud and it's crazy, you're having drinks, like, but you most of the time meet people when you're out having drinks. You're just not in the setting for it to work. So like the whole point of like the bar and like having a drink is like just loosen up. You know
Sure.
what I'm saying? Like just chill.
Right.
But if you promote it as it's a networking thing, like people understand they're not coming there to like turn up. They're coming there to meet people, but also have fun, you know, and also have drinks. So you can expect that. You can expect entertainment. You know, we've had magic. You can expect live art,
Yep.
DJs, panel speakers, and really just you know, overall a good night and a vibe. And again, it's what you make it.
Definitely.
You know, there's a lot of people go to networking events and then don't network.
Right,
You know,
right.
So that's what you make it.
All right, perfect. We are getting ready to almost wrap up this episode. We certainly appreciate Zeke being on spot here. One thing I also want to kind of cover with you, Zeke. Now you're kind of involved with you have your hands in a lot of different things. So I know there was Cultivate. I know there was Wonderland. Now you're kind of involved with Black Pigeon Studios too, right?
Yeah.
Can you allude to that too? That's one of the newer studios in GR as well.
Yeah. Yeah, so brand new studio, you know, it's a cinematography studio that you can rent. But again, it kind of goes, you know, when my homies were thinking of the concept of it, actually, let me just tell the story real quick.
For sure.
So when Josh and these guys,
Shout out to Josh Sycamore.
they did a film, you know, Josh and Johnny, they did a film
Definitely.
that they filmed here in Grand Rapids called Something in the Clouds. And so they reached out to me there in LA. I, you know, was out in LA with them. He's from here. And he was asking me, you know, how do we make the premiere big?
Definitely.
You know, and so that's how it started. And I was kind of on the fence with doing Cultivate last year, just with COVID and everything. And ultimately, I was like, well, what if I bring Cultivate back and we mix this, right?
Sure.
And so over conversations, it became a premiere, and then it became a joint project. And through that project, and through them, you know, seeing what I was doing and what they were doing, and how we kind of align with where they want the studio to be, is they want to, you know, bring that concept of, you know, community and collaboration to the studio. And so just over a few months and getting through that, you know, they asked me, you know, to hop on board and help them really just kind of curate that and bring events and do different things in the studio and on a business side front, you know, just be here and kind of be a liaison from the city to what they're doing at Black Pigeon. So yeah, now, you know, we welcome all creatives and we're doing different events. We just had an event the other night called Flight Club. That's a free event for people to come and network and listen to panel speakers. So kind of taking some of the things that I'm used to doing into the studio.
All right. All right. Well, that about wraps up our episode here with Ezekiel Fowle. One more time, we thank you for coming out, taking time out of your day to be on the show. One thing I want to leave you with as we are on the topic of networking is, again, that quote I said, not about what you know, but who you know. Make sure when you have ideas that you connect with the right people. Sometimes those people may be in your life for a month, a week, 2 months, a year, but they may have what you need to propel you to the next level. So I can definitely allude to that. Until next time, thank you for joining the Tim Gray Talk Show.
Because I don't know what's to come. Life's too short, I'm on the run, but to my eyes you are the sunshine, sunshine, sunshine.